The biggest mistake that leaders make, most of them don't realize they make it. And that's why it's so dangerous. It's in your blind spot. The stuff that's in our blind spot is what takes us out, limits us. And that's ego. And, you know, the thing about ego was when you say there's too much ego in leadership, everybody says they agree. And they look at everybody else and say, they have ego problems. You know, the ego is like a dog. A dog doesn't see itself in the mirror. You know, the ego refuses to see itself.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Knowledge Bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. If this is your first time joining us, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell and hit that like button. This will be greatly appreciated in helping getting out this content to great leaders and great individuals like yourself. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Jeffrey Deckman. Man, I'm definitely so excited getting started with the new year. Hope each and every one of you are rocking it and killing it. Definitely glad to have you on the Lead to Greatness podcast on today. This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
My dad had been in cable television for years, so I grew up around linemen and tower workers and field engineers. They were like cowboys to me. Yeah. So when I got out of high school, that's what I wanted to do. At the age of 17, I became a lineman, and then I became a tower worker and a field engineer. And I started my first business when I was 26 in the cable television design and engineering field. Didn't have any money, but just knew some people and knew what I was doing. So we built that company, and I picked up a couple of partners, had it for 6 years. And offices in 4 states, 108 employees, $4 million a year, and 1987 money. It crashed, and it crashed hard. So I was 30 years old, had a wife, had a 2-year-old daughter, and a son on the way, and a new home. And my business just went under. It got too complicated and too big for us too fast. We didn't know we'd get out over our skis. So then I had to decide, what was I going to do? Was I going to get a job or start a new business? And I agonized about that. You know, the data points just showed me I don't know how to run a business, so why would I ever start another one? I just had this entrepreneur bugging me, and I realized if I got a job, I'd probably never start another business because I'd have the obligation of the family. But if I started another business and that failed, I could always get another job. So I said, all right, well, let me try another business. And that business went really well. I ended up selling that a week before its 21st birthday to my management team.
Amazing.
That was in the networking industry. So I built large computer networks. And I left that because I was bored and I wanted to help other people who are looking to build their businesses, build them with less stress, aggravation, fear, terror than what I went through. So that's what I do. I work with small to medium-sized businesses to help them shorten their learning curves and maximize their profit centers.
Amazing. Amazing. Jeffrey, thank you for doing what you do. And you said something, and I want to kind of pull on that a little bit. You talked about when you started your first business and how you say it grew too fast, came tumbling down, and then you tried again and started a different business. I want you to kind of touch on some of those things. The first time when you went into entrepreneurship for the first time, and that second time, all the experiences and all the things you learned, what is that key thing, that one thing that you can think of, or maybe a couple of things that you knew the second time that you wish you would have knew on the first time?
That not every opportunity is a good opportunity. And to pay attention to my bandwidth, financial bandwidth, personal bandwidth, energy, knowledge. You know, don't get out over my skis. That was one thing. The other thing it taught me that was really super empowering was nobody or nothing can ever make me give up. I can choose to stop doing something, and that's not giving up. That's making a choice. But nobody can ever break me so that I've given up and I've lost part of my soul or my spirit. Yeah, so perseverance. You know, I can take a punch. I can keep going.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't kill you. Sometimes you just want to curl up in a fetal position. But, you know, what I learned with that is, okay, I mean, there were a lot of days when that business was going under. It was about a year before it went under, and it was terrifying. And every Sunday night, I would almost have an anxiety attack, knowing what I was going into the next day, trying to keep the company from hitting the mountain.
Yes.
And there were times when I just wanted to quit. And I thought, if I stop, I'll curl up on a ball. The world's going to pounce on me. And then I'm just going to get up sooner or later anyway. I'm not going to lay there forever. So just don't do that. Just keep going and see what happens.
Yes,
a day at a time. And if you see things that take your heart and your spirit away, stop paying attention to them and believe in yourself, and just make every hour count, every day count, and see how it works out.
Jeff, that is a knowledge bomb. Thank you. Thank you. That is a life bomb. Thank you for dropping that on us. And I want to, because you talked about that situation, how you were scared and what it did for you, the anxiety and everything. But that's something that happened not to just business, but your health. I mean, you were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and you survived it. My question for you is, how being a stage 4 cancer survivor changed your view on life?
Tremendously. And I'll tell you, the lessons I learned as an entrepreneur about perseverance and constantly, finding a way to make it really, really played a big role in the attitude on how I went into that. But the other thing that I did was as soon as I was diagnosed, I started looking at my options. I didn't go right into a system. As an entrepreneur, you're used to thinking about things, so there's a whole holistic community and there's a traditional community, and they both kind of demonize each other. And what I did was I started studying holistic approaches, nutrition, and, on and on. And at the same time, I was looking at traditional treatments, and I ended up connecting with an integrative oncologist who was both a trained cancer doctor, and she's a Cherokee medicine woman. I worked with her, and one of the things that she told me early on was, she said, Jeff, you have to learn to love the cancer. She said, don't fight cancer. Don't go to war with cancer. She said, anything other than love in your body is just another cancer cell, and you have enough of that. Wow. So you have to learn to love the cancer. So I looked at her and I said, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'll let me work on that for a couple of days and see what I couldn't even conceive of it. So, and what it came to me was that cancer is a teacher. Cancer came here to teach me something. And if I can open myself to the lessons, I can convert it to being a blessing. So I started looking and I said, okay, what is cancer here to teach me? And I learned so much. It taught me about compassion. It taught me about empathy. It taught me about the value of life itself. In going through my treatment, I had a period, I lost about 40% of my hearing, so I could relate to people who had hearing difficulties. I felt like I was 90 years old, so I could relate to older people who are walking around, and, before I'd be like, hurry up, get out of my way. Now I understand they're in pain, but they're still up and at it. I got what they called chemo brain, which is a form of temporary dementia. So I could relate to what people with early stage Alzheimer's was like. So I had all those different experiences that I was able to come out of. And one night, right in my last week of treatment, and they say that the treatment for neck cancer is the second most painful treatment you can have and not be in the hospital. It's really tough stuff because they radiate and your mouth gets, it's really bad stuff. So anyway, I woke up one morning about 3 o'clock and I hated waking up because the pain would kick in because I was under medicating myself. I didn't want to do a lot of opiates and that kind of stuff. I was kind of bowling my way through that. And I was laying there, and periodically there would be these conversations that would happen but they would just kind of happen. So it sounds a little bit weird, but I'll just tell you how it went. And it was like, I had this conversation. It was like, hey, you know how you feel like you're dying, like you're really old, you're tired, you're beat up, and you feel like you're dying, but by now, you're not, you're going to be okay. Yeah, I get that. Well, at some point, you're going to be 95 or whatever, and you are going to be dying, and you're not coming back. And I was like, okay, where's this going? The next thing that came to me was, what if in that moment you realized that you didn't love or respect yourself as much as you should have, and you were too hard on yourself? And I thought, oh my, the thought terrified me, because I said, I would die with a regret. Because, I think a lot of us are really, really hard on ourselves. And we have that inner critic, and that I call it the liar dude, you know, that thing that's your voice just going, man, you're not doing this, and you're not doing that, et cetera. And it actually can create a belief system. And that little bit of wisdom really had a huge impact on me. And I realized that I'm a good guy, and I've made my mistakes like everybody else, but my heart is good. My intentions are good. And I'm here to do the best I can. And I forgave myself for anything that I struggled with. And I give myself credit for staying in the game and trying to be a good person. And that lifted a huge load for me. I didn't realize how punishing it was. I was being on myself by being so critical.
Jeez.
I just had to give that up. I still slip into it every now and then, but cancer is the most amazing experience I ever had in my life. I would never exchange it. If I was given a choice to go through it and learn what I learned, or not go through it and be where I was before, I don't want it again, but I would take it. I learned stuff in that I never would have learned this lifetime. Yeah, it's really, really powerful and meaningful to me. Changed so much.
Wow, Jeff. Wow, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that.
After I left my last company in 2005, I was invited to be a partner in a think tank. So that was 2006, 2007. And what I did in there was I was looking at what impact the new millennium and the change of technology and the new generations coming into the workforce was going to have. You know, it was clear that there was a new consciousness. We're post-industrial age. That top-down command and control, everything's metrics, measured, burn people up, throw them out, bring the next one in, feed the machine with human beings. It was gone. But what would replace it? So because I was on this spiritual journey of exploring consciousness and understanding more of that, I looked and I started seeing and studying new methods of leadership that actually came from a higher level of consciousness, which instead of command and control, which is a male energy, the new age is more about a divine feminine energy, which is about communication, collaboration, facilitation, nurturing. And that's the new energy that's in the world that we're all trying to work through. That is the next evolution of human consciousness. And that's occurring. And what I do is I look to be a channel for that next evolution of consciousness to be put into the workplace. The biggest mistake that leaders make that they most of them don't realize they make it. And that's why it's so dangerous. It's in your blind spot. You know, it's the stuff that's in our blind spot is what takes us out, limits us. And that's ego. And, you know, the thing about ego was when you say there's too much ego in leadership, everybody says they agree, and they look at everybody else and say, they have ego problems. You know, the ego is like a dog. That a dog doesn't see itself in the mirror. You know, the ego refuses to see itself. And like a dog, if it's not trained, it bites, it barks, it sniffs in inappropriate places and gets in trash. And one barking dog will activate another barking dog, just like one active ego activates other egos. So we have to be humble, not foolish, not weak, but we have to be humble. We have to be open to people. We have to be patient. We can't be as driven by our egos as what we are. And a lot of times, you know, leaders, we're under a lot of pressure. You know, we have to hit the numbers. That we feel as though the pressure is on us to figure everything out and show that leadership. And the leadership today is not about being out in front of everybody, you know, take that hill, we're going to go do this. It's about coming in and treating them like they're a network and managing the network and that collective genius.
Beautiful.
How do we do this? And what do you think? And engage them, because you engage people, they get a sense of ownership. They get a sense of ownership. They get a sense of stewardship.
Yes.
And again, that's just one of those things that happens. It's human dynamics. And we've looked at our organizations through the industrial lens forever. So, you know, 70% of people in organizations are not engaged. Imagine a baseball manager that got that can only get 3 of his people out on the field.
Man.
Right. And that's across the country. And that's been like that for decades. But we accept that. We say, you know, hey, if you can get 40%, that's really good. So 70% are not engaged. But when Gallup interviews people and say, how many want to be engaged? 70% want to be engaged. You ask management, how many of you want your people engaged? And all of them do. So I look at that. I'm an ex-engineer. So I look at that and I go, okay, 70% aren't, 70% want to be, and 100% of management wants them to be. So what's the problem? The problem's not a people problem. It's not a people problem. It's a model problem. We're using the wrong model. We're using an industrial model that says organizations are machines and people are tools to feed the machine. And that's why we only have 3 out of 10 people saying, yeah, I'll do that. When you realize organizations are organisms, they're tribes. And you go in and you engage them as equals and find the strengths. And your job as a leader is to not only mobilize that tribe so it can be as powerful and effective and healthy as possible, but also to make it so that when you're gone, it continues. Your job is the continuation of that tribe. And if you can't do that, you should not be a leader. And if you don't love people, don't try to lead people. It's not going to work out well for anybody.
Jeffrey, this is good, because here it is. You just said, and you mentioned ego being a blind spot, and coming from the industrial and that form of leadership and how it's changing, how it needs to change, because now you have millennials in the workforce, and also now you have Gen Zs that's in the workforce now, that's on a whole totally different perspective on the way they receive things and the way they handle things. I mean, they have no clue about the industrial industry, so that you can't even speak their language when you're doing it. I want you to talk, because we're driving a car, right? You're driving the car, you're driving, the safest thing is for you to drive forward, but you have your review mirror and you have your side mirrors, hopefully covering all the blind spots. If you have those little circular things inside the mirrors, you know, it will catch everything. I want to talk about blind spots. What are some things that leadership that we can do today to help protect us from those blind spots?
You know, that's a good question. And I wrote a book, and the book is called Developing the Conscious Leadership Mindset for the 21st Century. It's hidden back here. It's won 2 international awards and 4 national awards for its approach. Wow. And I take about 5 pages in there and I devote it to blind spots, because they are so deadly. And there's an exercise that I give in there that if you're courageous to take it, you'll be glad you did. If you're courageous enough to take it. And here's what it is. Identify maybe 5 people that are in your circle that know you well, professionally, hopefully try to get a little bit of a cross-section, professionally, personally. They know you well. They're not afraid of you. They love you enough to be honest with you, and ask them and invite them to point out 2, maybe 3 things about you that you are not aware that you do, that work against you. To make them a promise, and you have to stick to that promise, because your ego is not going to like this at all. And the promise to these people are that you promise not to take offense or to hold it against them. Because if they're courageous enough to be vulnerable enough to tell you what they've been seeing, you cannot repay that courage by punishing them. And if you're not mature enough, if you're not woman enough or man enough to take the truth, don't be in leadership. Once again, leadership is a sacred obligation. You know, I believe all leaders should take the Hippocratic oath. First, do no harm.
Wow.
First, do no harm. Yeah. And then operate from that. So, and what will happen is you'll get people who give you feedback. And one of the ways, this is funny, one of the ways I know something's in my blind spot is when somebody tells me I'm doing something and I say, you are dead wrong. No, I don't, right? Yeah. More often than not, yeah, they do. You know, it's almost like, you know, the little kid, he's 3 years old, he's playing hide and seek, and he's standing in the living room with his hands over his eyes. And he figures because he can't see himself, nobody else can. Yeah. So what I do, and there's something really cool about when you uncover the blind spot. There's something sitting in there and it's working against you and you don't even know it, and people aren't telling you for a variety of reasons. And then when they tell you, you get this thing, and the first challenge is to accept it as true until proven otherwise. Yeah. You give the benefit of the doubt, expect that, no, that's not true. Take it, sit with it for a couple of days, think about it. And then chances are you're gonna see what they're talking about. And you'll probably get that same data point from a couple of folks. Wow. So now what's happened is that has come from behind the blind spot. Now you're aware. You can't unring that bell. Once I'm aware, I'm now conscious of it. Once I'm conscious of it, next time it shows up, I'm in a position where I get to make a conscious decision whether I'm going to ignore it or whether I'm going to grow from it. So the cool part is you can't unring that bell. Once it comes out of the blind spot, it's there. You can try to bury it. You can try to cover it, but you know it's there. So now it's in your consciousness. And then when it shows up, you'll look and the draw will be incredibly strong to do what you've always done because it's easier. But the growth comes from here. And as you go through and you challenge yourself to have that growth, not only do you benefit, but you also have more empathy on how hard it is to grow. So you have more empathy for the people that you're coaching. And because you've grown, you've lived it, when you're telling them, they know that's truth. So you shorten their learning curve because they know it's not platitudes or BS. You're talking to a dude that's walked the talk. So I may not like it. I may dance around it, but at least I know what truth is. And then it's up to me. How much truth do I want?
Jeffrey, those are a load of knowledge bombs. Wow. Thank you.
And here's something that you can do. And I have a lot of empathy for people going through this. I mean, I've gone through a lot. I still go through it, probably weekly. When somebody brings that to you, the first thing is, ouch. No, I'm not. And it hurts. But find the courage to say, help me understand, because that's you being open and it's really hard. Just get that sentence out. And what they're going to feel in that, they're going to feel the energy of that vulnerability of you, and they're going to be gentle with you, and we have to find our blind spots, because the blind spots are like cancer. I didn't know I had cancer until I knew I had cancer. Cancer was in me for probably, I don't know. I don't know how long it was. And, everybody says, wow, you get a cancer diagnosis, it's really scary. It's like, well, what was scary? It was before I knew I had it.
Absolutely. That's the
so these things that are working against us, and you can't fix them all. You fix the ones you can, you move the needle, that's all good. Some of them you just go, I'm sorry. That's just a weak spot with me. Rumi has a great quote, which is, I am what I am because this one is like that. Nobody has an easy ride. And that's what leadership is. Leadership is not about getting people to do stuff. It's not about getting people to follow your directions. It's about getting them to follow a direction. Follow a direction. Be a way shower. Don't be a talker and a teller. Be a way shower. We go like this. We think like this. We operate like this. And if I don't operate like that, you throw the penalty flag at me. And if I can't handle that, you don't follow me. I'm just following you into Egoville. All of us have what all of us have. And if it's in me, it's in you. And I've just been fortunate. I've done a ton of work to try to find it. And now what I do is I try to help other people find it in them. And first of all, I tell them it's in there. You think you're a jerk, or you think you're not connected, or you can't get spiritual, that's just the ego trying to keep you from figuring it out. Because once you figure out you are, the ego is bagged. It knows it's number two. It goes from being Top Gun to being wingman.
Jeffrey, this is good. Thank you. Jeffrey, if someone wants to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
Go to my website. There's a ton of stuff in there. I've got a YouTube channel, and I have some really cool 5-7 minute clips that'll take you on miniature journeys like this, about how to respect yourself and all kinds of stuff. And my website is jeffreydeckman.com. You can go in there, and that ties you into everything. And you can email me at jeffrey@jeffreydeckman.com. March 1st of 2023 is I'm going to be having basically it's a conscious leadership certification program. And I developed a process for leadership and organizational transformation. And the process is called the M3 process for leadership and organizational development. And it won me the bronze medal for Innovator of the Year in 2022 from the International Business Awards Group. And what it does is it takes us through, in order to go through a transformation, you need a new mindset. You need to see the world differently and your place in it. Then you need new models. You need a new way of actually engaging in the world. And then you need new methods, things that you can do day to day on the front lines that operate under that new model and manifest the mindset. So I'm teaching a program, and I've been teaching bits and pieces of it for a couple of years, but just last year I did the first certification, and it's a kind of a heavy lift, but it will transform who you are personally, who you are as a leader, and how you engage the people in your organization. It's incredibly powerful.
Wow. Jeff, how do we sign up for this awesome information?
The best thing you can do is just email me at jeffrey@jeffreydeckman.com. It's still some shifting targets. You know, you can go to my website. You can see in there where I've got a section devoted to the M3 certification program. So it talks about the training. But yeah, my website is jeffreydeckman.com. Okay. So email me or go to jeffreydeckman.com. I'll have updates on there, and it's transformative. It's really powerful.
Well, Jeffrey, to the Lead to Greatness community, you are a rock star. You definitely dropped a lot of knowledge for us on today, and we are grateful for it. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, we want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Well, you have made this the most enjoyable hour I've had in a while, and I have some enjoyable hours. And, I love talking with you, and yeah, this has been really awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. So we want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself. So we want to thank you for joining us today. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.